Hey there, it's Pete Thorn. I'm still over in Japan. I'm in the middle of who knows where, actually. I'm out in the countryside and staying out here for a few days. There's a guy over there doing some farming, toiling away in the field. And yeah, this is a beautiful spot I'm at. So, this is question and answer video number 5. Alright, hopefully it's not too noisy out here between the insects and the birds and the farming going on over there. It's a little crazy, but I'll try and speak loudly. So Emil says he has the following issue. He wants to have a powerful, warm, face-hitting overdrive tone for heavy down-tuned metal, and wondering about a suggestion for what types of amps and gear to look for. Well, starting with amps, when I think of distortion tones, I love sort of vintage-style distortion tones. Love the old sort of Marshall Plexi thing, but those amps might not be the best choice for kind of a more modern metal thing. What you want is something that's maybe tighter, with sort of stiffer, a little stiffer filtering and stuff, so that when you pile on a bunch of gain and distortion, the tone remains tight. Now, the PT100 I feel does that really well, but it does have that sort of vintage character. Another amp is like maybe the Friedman BE100 that's really highly regarded these days. It can do metal and whatnot, but as far as like when I think about down-tuned, really, really heavy tones, maybe in the diesel camp is where you want to look, as well as maybe Engel or amps like that have that kind of, really stiffer filtering and super tight gain structure and lots of resonance and things like that. The PV5150 when that came out, and obviously the Mesa Dual Recto and whatnot. The funny thing about dual rectifier is that to me they're not real tight sounding. They actually have a kind of a loose thing going on, but it worked for a lot of guys for that tone. The other thing that's really cool is I've always loved Adam's tones from Tool, and he had amazing, just incredible guitar tone. He still does. He used to use either, I think, a dual rectifier and a 73, I think it was a 73 Marshall super lead style, and you use them together. So you get the best of both worlds in that case. That can just be an amazing tone, like blend like a dual rectifier and a vintage Marshall or something. You just get this wall of sound. Maybe a diesel and a vintage Marshall, something like that. Larry says he records in his bedroom in a Manhattan apartment a lot. He needs to keep the volume as AC15, super reasonable for the neighbors. He uses an attenuator, Alex attenuator, and he tried miking with an SM57, but because of the low volume, a dynamic doesn't sound good at all. So he found that when he switched to man, that is noisy. Sorry. He found that can you be quiet over there? Stop that farming. He found that when he switched to a Rode condenser mic, he had much better results, and he's looking for an upgrade now. I recommend a condenser mic up to maybe $1,200 or so. Well, there's a whole slew of them out there on the market. For kind of on the inexpensive end, I really like the mics from SE that I've been trying lately. I'm a big fan of their stuff. I also have a Mojave, I believe it's an MA200. Just a beautiful sounding condenser mic. For vocals, it's magnificent. I use it on acoustic guitar all the time too. Sounds great. I used it once for a little bit of distant miking on my electric guitar, and that sounded great. And I really want to experiment more with it on electric guitar tones as well. I just haven't had time, frankly. But I love the Mojave mics. They're really awesome. So check out the Mojave MA200. I think it's around that price, like somewhere $1,100, maybe $1,000, maybe a little less. I know VK carries them. I'm a big fan of the VK store, so check out VK also carries it. They have like a gazillion microphones and good prices and stuff like that. So check out Vintage King and see what they've got. Another mic I always like, I'll mention one more condenser, was the Audio Technica 4050, and I believe they're around $700 to $800, something like that. But that is one of the greatest sounding mics on a guitar speaker cabinet that I've heard. A lot of live engineers really like them. I used it on Melissa Etheridge's tour, and I loved it. I remember touring way back in 2000 with a band opening for the B-52s, and the B-52s guitar player had two AC30s with 4050s on the cabs. That's the first time I heard it, and I was like, man, that sounds amazing. Really, really great guitar mic, so check that one out too. Okay, a fellow named Richard is wondering about playing acoustic guitar with piezo pickup. I never know how to say that. I think that's how you say it, piezo pickup. He specifically wondered about EQ, effects, anything to get a live acoustic sound that I like? Um, well, it really depends on the guitar. I think the Taylor pickup systems sound really wonderful. I recently put an LR bag system in my my Martin that Chris Cornell gave me as a wonderful gift. And yeah, it had a different pickup system, and I replaced it with the new LR bag system, which I believe is called, and I screwed this up once on Facebook, it's either called the Element or the Anthem. I think it's called the Element system. And it consists of a undersaddle pickup as well as some sort of sensor that's kind of like a microphone, and it's really simple and elegant. It's got a little thing that goes inside the sound hole that has a volume control and then a blend control that blends between the pickup and the kind of element thing that picks up the I guess that's why it's called Element, because it's got this microphone in it. Anyway, it sounds wonderful. It sounds totally natural. I sort of shot it out against like 4 or 5 different pickup systems they had at McCabe's Music in Santa Monica. They had guitars loaded with all these different pickup systems, and the LR bags one just blew them all away. So that's the first thing. If you start off with a great pickup system, obviously, you know, from great guitar right from the source, then a great pickup and preamp system, and you're going to be off and running. Check that out first. Like, maybe look at replacing whatever you've got in your guitar with that LR bag system. It's getting very popular these days. Widely regarded as being one of the best systems out there. It was about $400 installed, I think. So I just went for it and did it kind of like, all right, did it on a whim, took my guitar there, had it installed. Sounds great. Outboard EQs and stuff, I don't really use anything. One thing I had a lot of luck with was the old Yamaha AG Stomp pedal. They're discontinued now, they don't make it anymore, but that thing was great. You see a lot of them over here in Japan. A lot of guys use them here. And it kind of did a modeling thing where it would take whatever you put into it, and then you could sort of pick on it whether you wanted a kind of a modeled microphone on a God, I'm trying to remember, like if it had different microphone types or something. Anyway, I used one of those years ago, 10 years ago now, and I used it on tour for a while, and it took a Gibson that I had that just had a very average pickup in it that sounded, you know, really blah. And it made that guitar sound absolutely wonderful. I used it on the Conan O'Brien show. I was playing with Jewel, and I heard the playback, and the acoustic guitar was ripping loud in the mix. And luckily, I was listening to it going, wow, that sounds great. Like the tone of the acoustic had really just popped right out and sounded great. And I thought, well, that's it. That's my live acoustic sound. And then I don't remember what happened to that box, to tell you the truth. At the end of that tour, I put it away somewhere, and then I never used it again. But it did sound really great. So check out the old Yamaha AG Stomp thing too. Probably cool things out like that now that I don't even know about. But I really like simplicity. A nice, clean DI, and then if I've got a guitar with a great pickup in it and stuff, I don't like messing. My electric rig is complicated enough, and so it's like with acoustic, I don't like messing around with too many outboard preamps and EQs and things on the floor and more stuff to plug in. I just want a good clean DI, and I want the guitar to sound great. And then the guy at the desk can add compression and EQ and whatever he needs to do. You know, I figure kind of the realm of the sound guy. So Ron says, how many takes do I normally use to get my videos together? How long does it take to learn the parts I come up with and be able to lay them down perfectly? Well, that's a good question. It just depends on the song. Sometimes it takes a little while, actually. I don't like putting out things that I'm not happy with. I have to be 100% comfortable with it. So I sit there and beat myself up about it until, you know, I feel like it sounds like a complete song and like a take that I would be proud of to share. So yeah, it really just depends. Sometimes they come together really quick. Generally, like when I'm doing these video demos or whatever you hear me make in my studio, I'll start around maybe, you know, 10 a.m. or something like that. I'll start coming up with an idea and a song, and generally by maybe 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock p.m. that day, I've got the thing basically tracked and videotaped and stuff. And then I'll you know, maybe take a break and go for dinner and come back and mix the song, something like that. And that kind of generally, you know, takes an afternoon or something like that. And then the rest of the demo where I'm talking about a pedal or whatever, I'll like do that the following morning. bounce the whole thing out and mix it and get it done. That's my general sort of workflow. He also wants to know about Stephen Slate drums. Do I do something to trigger and tap out the parts that I want? I have an old first edition Oxygen 8 keyboard, one of those M Audio ones. It's just like, super outdated, and I'll use that if I need to play in a part. But generally I'll start out with a MIDI groove, something that's already in Stephen Slate drums, or sometimes what I'm doing these days is I'll get drum grooves out of Logic's Drummer plugin. So it's a virtual instrument that is a drum plugin, and it generates beats and stuff like that. And I'll find something close to what I want there using Logic Drummer, and then you can take the little Logic file, convert it into a MIDI file. I can drop it down into Stephen Slate drums, and then I'm using the Stephen Slate sounds, which are fantastic. And then I can kind of tweak the part from there just on the MIDI grid. And if I want to, change up the kick pattern, add a different fill, I'll do that kind of thing. So that's kind of my workflow. It seems to work pretty good for me that way. I don't generally unless it's something really specific that I know I want and I can't find a MIDI groove that's close, I don't generally play all the parts in one note at a time. And many times I write to drum grooves, so I'll let the drum groove kind of steer me. I'll put on a groove and use the groove as a basis, so I don't need to go in and do a ton of reprogramming. I'm actually starting with something that already exists. And that's a good workflow. It keeps things flowing. So Harrison from Australia says he's thinking about going to LA, moving to LA, attending Musicians Institute, wondering if I could shed some light on how it helped me or if it did at all. Well, it definitely did. Moving to LA got me into the music community there. First and foremost, but I made a lot of good contacts at MI. I learned a lot while I was there, both theoretical music knowledge, but also some real-world stuff that was really great. They have things there like live performance workshops where you're sort of thrown into the mix with other musicians. You got to get up on stage and play a Led Zeppelin song or something like that with maybe a bass player you've never met and a drummer you've ever met, and then afterwards, in kind of like a live sort of club environment. And then afterwards, teachers will kind of critique you and say, maybe what you could have done better, that kind of thing. But it's cool. It's actually kind of like crash course in some real world experience. Now, I went a long time ago, so it's possible they've got other crazy stuff going on there that I don't even know about. That's really cool. But yeah, I had a great experience at MI. I thought it was really cool. Now, at the end of MI, I went to the Musicians Referral Service there, which I think they still have, and I got a number of a guy that would become a good friend of mine, Frank Symes, and he's a terrific guitar player that he actually tours with The Who now, not playing guitar, he's playing keys and doing some musical directing and stuff like that. But anyway, he was a really successful sideman playing with Don Henley and actually Mick Jagger at the time, and had a lot going on. He had his own band, and he asked me to, he was looking for a guitar player to join his own original project. So I joined him, and that was really my first foray into the music business. And actually, 5 years later, we ended up getting a record deal over here in Japan, and that's how I became a professional musician, really. So yeah, it all basically started with MI. So it was a great experience for me. I can't say that it will be for everybody, but it was terrific for me.